Is it time?
Is this your water?
When are we supposed to start?
4:45?
4:45, and it is 4:47.
I would say we're ready.
I guess we're ready.
All right, great.
They're still coming in, though.
Yeah, let's...
What's that?
It's in your head.
What, you want music?
Ah.
Who invited the troublemaker?
Guitar's in my hotel room. Sorry.
No music.
No music.
I don't think they have an eighth-inch patch up here.
Yeah, they don't.
It's all right. You'll sing it, because you know the song.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you do. I can see it in your eyes. You could sing this song.
Yeah.
Good talk, by the way.
Room full of Bulgarians singing Toy Boy.
That'd be
fun.
something.
All right, I suppose we're going to start.
How many folks here listen to .NET Rocks? Few hands? Wow, awesome.
Those who don't, you're looking at it. It's
There it is.
internet audio talk show for .NET developers. We don't call it a podcast because we started before podcasts in 2002. So I don't know if you can see that, but right behind Dan's head is the number of the current show, 911. Yep, we've been putting out 2 shows a week pretty much steadily since 03 maybe, or 04.
So 06 we went to 2.
2? Oh.
We were doing one a week before that.
You remember, and do you never forget anything, do you? No, wow. Like my wife.
Yes.
Only
I
different.
mostly remember when you're wrong.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And the exact time of
and
day.
episode 1000 publishes on August 7th, 2014.
That's right. And we have something special planned for that. You just got to listen to the show.
But this is going to be a show. We will publish this.
Yeah.
So we got the recorder set up back there. We've got our victims up here.
Yep.
But if you've ever listened to a live show, you know there is an important role for all of you to play, too.
Do you know what it is? Make noise. So not now. Just wait. You do have permission to go absolutely crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, Bulgaria, it's .NET Rocks. And I want you to scream as loud as you can, pick up your chair, beat the person next to you, take off all your clothes and run around the room and set fire to the place. All right? Are you with me? No. Are you with me? No. All right. Well, just make a lot of noise.
Just make some noise.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Doors are closing. The cockpit door is closing. Cabin door. Okay, here we go. Hey, Bulgaria! It's .NET Rocks!
Yeah!
Wow.
You know it.
Unbelievable.
50,000 people in here.
This is the largest mall in the Balkans, I think. Isn't it?
We are in a mall, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's very odd, but
It's a convention center in a mall.
this is the 3rd location that DevReach has been in, because we've been to
Yeah.
all of them.
Right.
Well, I missed one. I think you missed one.
I missed the first one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of years ago. And then
Right.
this is the new facility. It is massive. It is gorgeous. And we have very bright lights shining in our eyes right now.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of stuff to get through. We got some panelists here, so let's just roll the music for Better Know Framework.
So what have we learned today? We don't actually get to hear the music when
No,
we
we
record this. So if you're waiting for the music, yeah, we don't hear that.
Nope.
And this is an edit point. That's the beautiful thing about audio.
Right.
We have editors. This show will be published on a Tuesday, so the editor will be Lawrence. Everybody say hi to Lawrence.
Hi, Lawrence.
We love you, Lawrence.
Yep. Okay.
So he's so good, he even makes us sound smart.
Right.
And all this is going to be cut out of the show, but he'll put the music in.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, buddy, what do you got?
Okay, so we're talking about JavaScript libraries today. So it's always kind of a conundrum for me how to manage all of that stuff.
Yes.
And different people have different techniques, and there are some tools out there as well. So I found one that I have never used, but it was recommended, Juicer.
Juicer. I've not heard of
Juicer.
this.
So if you just Google Juicer, it's on GitHub. It's a command line tool that helps you ship front-end code for production. This is right out of the README.
Nice.
High-level overview. Juicer can A, figure out which files depend on each other and merge them together, reducing the number of HTTP requests per page view, thus improving performance.
That's a good thing.
Yep, it can use UI compressor, or Google Closure compiler to compress code, improving performance. Can verify that your JavaScript is safe to minify or compress by running JSLint on it. You can cycle asset hosts in CSS files. It'll add cache busters to URLs in CSS files, like by adding parameters to images and things like that. It'll recalculate relative URLs in CSS files, as well as convert them to absolute or convert absolute URLs to relative URLs. And embed images into style sheets using data URIs. So, good little tool.
This is stuff we used to do in Strangeloo.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But now it's a free library.
Yeah.
I'm really kind of glad I'm out of that business.
I know. So, there you go. Just Google Juicer or look it up on GitHub. Know it, learn it, love it. Richard, who's talking to us?
Awesome. I grabbed a comment off of show 878, and that's the one we did with James Kovacs, where we talked about programming in JavaScript functionally. And Ahmed Magid said, thanks for the enjoyable podcast. One question that is always asked during the podcast was, what would the functional Yeah, that's not going to show up in the show either. You see, you guys are seeing how the sausage gets made when we make .NET Rocks. Let me say that again. Don't turn off, bad machine. One question that was asked during the podcast was what functional libraries existed other than underscore? I was surprised that Lodash at lodash.com wasn't mentioned. Lodash, as the name suggests, is like underscore. In fact, it's a fork of underscore that aims to vastly improve performance and add extra features. It started out as a pull request to underscore, but it ultimately became its own thing when those suggestions weren't incorporated. For more history, check out the resources in the section on their site. It's interesting, I want to talk about this, the whole JavaScript and the nature of open source is really affecting all of this. To sum up the benefits, Lodash fixes some of the underscore bugs, uses loops instead of native array operators, which were benchmarked proved to be faster, maintains compatibility with underscore so it can be safely dropped in as a replacement, and provides custom builds so you can grab a JavaScript file with just the methods you intend to use. You were asking about exactly that question the other day. They also have a benchmark site that runs in the browser, and on my machine it showed me that the Lodash approach is like 1.76 times faster than the underscore approach. There's no doubt that Jeremy Ashkis, let me say that again. There's no doubt that Jeremy has introduced lots of JavaScript goodies with underscore, backbone, and CoffeeScript. However, after discovering Lodash, I'm definitely opting for that in my upcoming work. And thanks for the great show. And that's from Ahmad. So, Ahmad, I haven't got a whole lot of comment. It's really interesting that, that you see a fork like this, it becomes its own version of the product.
So you blew through that list of features pretty quick, but that question that I was talking to you about at the podium, was that one of the things that was addressed there?
Yeah, the whole idea of just pulling out the methods that you actually want.
Right.
Trying to minimize size
Exactly.
and code overhead, and it's something that Lodash addresses.
Yeah, so, okay, we'll talk. I'm sure these guys have a lot to say about that.
Absolutely. So, Ahmed, thanks so much for your comment. A .NET Rocks mug is on its way to you, and if you'd like a .NET Rocks mug, just write a comment on the website at .NETRocks.com or on any of our mobile apps. We have them for Android, iOS, Windows Phone. Let me say that again. It'll be one of those days. Just write a comment on the website at .NETRocks.com or on any of our mobile sites. Let me say it again, because they're not sites.
This is what we do.
They're mobile apps. Or on any of our mobile apps, we've got them for Android, iOS, Windows Phone 7 and 8, and Windows 8. And those apps were built by Diatom Enterprises, who'd love to build you an app.
Absolutely. Go to diatomenterprises.com. Enterprises?
Yep.
Absolutely. Just go to diatomenterprises.com. And before we go any further, I need to tell you that Pluralsight offers developer training online. They have hundreds and hundreds of courses aimed at developers, authored by industry experts, MVPs, and people that appear on our show. They produce over 40 courses a month. They offer a free 10-day trial, giving you 200 minutes of access. Topics include iOS, Java, web, everything Microsoft, including a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here. Subscription plans start at just $29 a month. It's pluralsight.com. All right, now that all that's out of the way, we can actually get to some content. Guys, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
All right, why don't we just have you introduce yourselves?
yourself, starting with Mr. Phil.
Hey, so my name is Phil Japikse. I'm the evangelism lead for the DevTools division at Telerik, and I've got a fairly long history with JavaScript, but it really amped up the past year when I started doing a real deep dive into WinJS, Windows 8 development with HTML and JavaScript.
Cool. Mr. Wahlin.
I'm Dan Wahlin, and I heard about JavaScript yesterday, and it sounds cool. Thought I'd, show up and see what we can talk about.
And you done some Pluralsight stuff on JavaScript.
Yeah, a lot of Pluralsight stuff. So.
Cool.
Yeah, the structured JavaScript code, for instance, is one that's been pretty popular because people like to convert spaghetti code to more clean code.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Justin.
And speaking of being new to things, I'm a complete outsider to the .NET community. Hello, my name is Justin Searls. I come from Columbus, Ohio. I'm a co-founder at my software studio, Test Double, and I've been focused for the last 5 years or so at making front-end development with JavaScript more enjoyable. So build a lot of open source tools around it, and as a result, I'm more connected to the community there than a lot of traditional back-end developers. But mostly I swam in Java and Rails waters prior to this.
Cool. I mean,
Awesome.
what I was looking for in a panel here, because JavaScript's a pretty broad subject, it's some really different viewpoints, so we could beat up on Justin, because clearly that's where this is going to go.
Excellent.
Welcome.
I don't fit in anywhere, it's fine.
No.
Edit point. Can you raise Mr. Campbell's volume just a little bit?
Am I a little low?
He's low compared to everybody else. Thank you.
Thanks. After you, sir.
Oh, I think you're raising my volume. Test your microphone there.
Test, 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 test.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
All right. Well, we sort of started this by talking about some tools and strategies for managing the vast number of libraries we have, and the only thing I can really compare it to is back in the days of DOS, right? When we started, we were programming in DOS. I know everybody just went, "What is he talking about?" But when you had compilers and a lot of libraries, and you had to stub things out, and you had to worry about the size of your executable and all of that stuff. We didn't really have to worry about. Oh yeah, we didn't really have to worry about that too much in Windows, And now it seems like size matters again. Smaller is better. And so how can we manage the size when we're using all these different libraries? I guess what's the name of this tool that the guy was? Lodash has something that looks like it, cherry picks from all the libraries just the methods that you're using and kind of just combines them into some sort of.
And I think that was just Lodash itself, because Lodash has lots of features that somebody's gone to the trouble of building it so you can pick what features you want to use.
Yeah. How do you manage that yourselves?
Don't use JavaScript.
Go down the road.
Oh.
Phil.
So I don't think you should manage it yourself. I think you need to find some way. There's just way too many frameworks out there, and there's new ones popping up every day. And so trying to manage that on your own by making sure you get this version that matches this version that matches this version, you're just going to be in a deployment nightmare. And so I'm a very firm believer, and I'm probably going to get some disagreement here, which is probably why you picked us for the panel, that you should really limit the number of frameworks you're using. And not just say, oh, here's yet another framework.js. Let's pull this down and see what it can do. And I've got one feature from this framework, and I've got one feature from this other framework, and we've got all these different frameworks. Now, not only is the page size too big, but we have collisions, right? Because not everybody's using namespaces correctly.
Right.
And so I think thinner is better.
You think what is better?
Thinner.
Thinner. Yeah.
So I guess small is better, however we want to say that.
Sure,
but
okay.
But not trying to just say, oh, this is cool, let's use it. Maybe we can solve the business problem with what we have.
So are you a vanilla JS advocate then?
No, nobody should be writing vanilla JS. I mean, there's so many problems with the JavaScript language. There's a reason why in Douglas Crawford's book, half of the book is JavaScript, the good parts. The other half of the book is JavaScript, the awful parts.
Right.
And then there's the really awful part.
Yes, yeah, the second appendix is the really awful parts. I mean, there's enough in there that you can shoot off both feet without even thinking about it. So you should use something.
Yeah.
And if you still have the training wheels on, jQuery is a great place to start.
Sure.
But just because somebody, it is going to, at VS Live a couple years ago, a bunch of us were sitting in the speaker room joking around because somebody had mentioned something that sounded like a cool name for a JavaScript framework.
Right.
So we tweeted, hey, there's this new JavaScript framework, we made this up .js or something.
Right.
And somebody had actually built a website real quick, and all it had was a hit counter. And retweeted it.
Right.
So the speakers from VS Live are tweeting it. So all the VS Live attendees started tweeting it. VS Live tweeted it. And we went to just watching the hit counter. It's like the national debt number, right? So spin it up. People are like, oh, these guys are talking about this framework. We must use it. It's like a moth to a light.
Yeah.
And at some point, you just got to say, stop the insanity. Let's use what we know and gradually move to other things.
I was told, you know, that if you're really, especially developing mobile sites, like these people don't want jQuery coming down to their phones and.
No, jQuery is pretty heavy, and that's one of the problems, right? Even though it was meant to be modular, it's grown, right? Everything grows over time. I mean, if you look at all the MVVM frameworks, right, these started off small, and then they grew, and now we have MVVM Lite, and now we have MVVM Lighter, and things of that nature.
Well, let me give Dan a chance to
sorry.
answer, and we'll go down the road. So how do you manage?
So obviously, I joked about learning JavaScript yesterday. So when I got started, it was LiveScript, which really dates me. That's why I was joking about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I do remember those days. And one of the things that I think is definitely tough, and I'm actually totally in agreement with what Phil just said.
Oh, holy cow, what?
Yeah, sorry. Richard's like, kick him off.
Yeah.
Someone
Well,
else
so
over
much for the fun.
here. Yeah. I think version dependencies are huge. If you're in, if you go into some of these large corporations that we work with, which you guys sell to them,
Right.
and you see the number of scripts they're using, I think you quickly start to go, okay, let's just extrapolate this out a little bit and say in the future that 4 of these scripts do move forward and they're open source and whatever, and 4 of them don't. And it turns out that the 4 that didn't had a dependency though on one that did, and now all of a sudden, what do? If that's like a part of your app?
Right.
Because your dependency's there.
Sure.
So that's where talking about tools. I'm a huge fan actually. When Node.js first came out, I was kind of like, why do we need another way to make a web server? Because that's it's
Right.
kind of what it was for originally.
Right.
Yep.
But now we have all these tools. The main one I use most of the time nowadays is Grunt, and it can help not only manage your dependencies, but also do all that stuff you mentioned with the juicer, the
Yeah.
notification. And
Right.
It's a JavaScript task build manager, so that once you get it in place once, you can basically run grunts, and boom, you're done. There's a bunch of offshoots. on
So I hate to interrupt, but are we out of good names?
No.
Because we have grunt, moan, whine, juicer, I lost my shorts.js. I mean, it's,
Red spotted owl.
yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So
Anyway, so Grunt, what it does is a lot of the automation features of the task management, and it's very popular. I mean, there's some other options out there, obviously, but it will help with some of that dependency stuff. It'll definitely help with automating your builds, with the concatenation, the minification, all that stuff.
okay.
And so anyway, long story short, I think that type of tool can really help out. And it takes a little getting used to, but it's not hard to start. You just have to basically have a JSON type. It's an object literal file, and it's a command line thing you can automate. Boom, you're off and running.
Well, all right. So yeah, we're all in violent agreement, it sounds like,
Nice.
that in my opinion, the more experience that I've become writing web applications with JavaScript, the fewer dependencies, the third-party libraries that I typically reach for. It's a function of a couple of things. One is that I've learned to build smaller apps, and let those kind of coalesce and come together and be reintegrated later as part of some sort of build. And the second is I think that when we're novices at something, figuring out how to roll our own solution to a problem that we don't understand is a lot harder than just going and Googling for jQuery plugin space carousel or slideshow. And that's how a lot of those libraries end up getting slurped in, especially in the big enterprise heavyweight applications. It's funny, Dan brought up Grunt. Last summer, we decided to try out Grunt and Node.js for all this build stuff, primarily because Node's I/O file operations are insanely fast on every single platform. And we built one Grunt project, and we attached 15 tasks to it that represented all the things that you talked about, the concatenation, the minification, compiling our coffee script, compiling our less, getting them all built and distributed, pushing it up to Heroku, all these different tasks. And we decided we only wanted to pay that price once, and we didn't want to just copy and paste it around like a make file or something like that forever. And so we produced a tool that has been my primary open source focus for the last year called Lineman. So a grunt was a low-level worker on the railroad, and a lineman was the next order up. So it's a really simple scaffolding tool. You just say lineman new app, lineman build, and then it does all of that for you, and all of the configuration is kind of nestled above, and it's extensible, but it gets all that out of your way. It just owns the application. So,
oh no, another library I need to learn.
well, the great thing is that there's very, very little. It's super skinny. All it is default configuration and a handful of conventions.
Nice.
So you just have to figure out, oh, I put my JavaScript in app.js, And so when we talk about dependency management, vendor/JS, we dump all the things in there and figure out the ordering, and you're off to the races. We love it. We use it every day on our client work, and so part of the reason that I'm traveling again and out at conferences and speaking with you guys is we're just really excited to share it because it's made our lives a lot better.
Yeah, that is cool because I feel like JavaScript libraries and JavaScript utilization is starting to really evolve because we put a lot more pressure on what we want our browsers to do in the past 2 or 3 years than we had the previous 10. It's kind of stunning. Let's go down the line about your favorite JavaScript stack, or I don't know what to call them, tribe?
Tribe,
The set
yeah.
of libraries that you use to build apps.
We
Should
are
we make
sort
that
of
a word?
tribal, yeah.
A gathering, a collection of JavaScript libraries is called a tribe. You with me? That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a tribe of libraries.
The meme starts here.
There you go. Justin, would you like to lead off with your
Yeah.
tribe?
So to preface, first of all, what attracted me to JavaScript 5-6 years ago was that it's a wild, wild west. I was stuck in these enterprise corporate IT environments where everyone was trying to control everything that I did.
Right.
And I found JavaScript is like, oh, I don't have to ask permission before I add something. I don't have to,
Yeah.
It turns out you don't even care about this. And pretty soon all my clients realized that their entire applications were being written in JavaScript under their nose. And made my life a lot happier. So lately, I'm currently transitioning from using Backbone primarily for building fat client apps to Angular slowly.
Right.
And it's been,
what's making you move from Backbone to Angular?
well, two things. One is that I like Backbone because I'm a control freak, because it's super duper minimalist. And I know that I love rolling my own solutions to all kinds of problems. And the problem is that every 3 months, how I would go about implementing something changes pretty dramatically. And teams and developers who are tasked with maintaining or keeping up don't want to have to relearn the podunk one-off way that I happen to implement everything. Okay. And so having a consistent solution for common problems like data binding and validation seems important. And for larger projects, I think Angular and possibly Ember, but it seems like Angular is getting a ton of positive momentum right now. We're seeing a huge amount of demand for it. So in terms of big frameworks, but in small stuff, I really like underscore a lot. I write a lot more functional JavaScript because I use underscore. I like Moment.js as a great wrapper around JavaScript dates, which are a little bit gnarly. Yeah, those two are usually the first ones I reach for above and beyond whatever framework I'm using.
And like I said, you're trying to keep this really lean. You don't want too many. So
Yes.
just the two.
Well, I'll usually have between 2 and 5, just depending on whatever I need, but it's rarely very many more than that.
Do you see cases, I don't know how often you dig into other people's projects, where it's like every library you've ever seen?
Yeah, absolutely, and those can be really hard to tease apart. They really become legacy rescue projects.
I remember this, you want to talk about old school, like go back to the VB3 days where everybody had VBX controls and you couldn't resist putting more controls into your app.
I must drag it.
It feels like the same disease.
All right,
Absolutely.
so we've gone back in time from DOS to VB3.
Nice, yeah. We're taking a
live
real tour here.
script. We're a bunch of old timers.
Nice.
Dan's gonna get his punch card out.
Yep. Dan?
I missed on that, sorry, but I heard don't drop your stack. I did hear that.
Yeah, that was a whole other kind of stack fault.
I guess so.
What's your tribe, Dan?
Yeah, so, again, we're gonna get agreement here. So over the last probably 8 months, I've done pretty much all, when it comes to the whole spa concept, I jumped on the Angular bandwagon really early because of exactly what you mentioned earlier, Richard, which was you're seeing all these people building, and it's kind of like everything in the kitchen sink that we already talked about.
Yep.
And I just, having done, for about 6 years of my career, we did dev, but we also did production support. And anytime your butt's on the line for production, you start to take really serious
That's always been the battle with libraries, right? Especially in a JavaScript library. You get an error in a line of code that you did not write.
Yuck.
And if it's minified, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
There, yeah. So I've always been a big proponent. In fact, I think we talked in San Francisco at
Yeah.
Rocks there.
On the road trip, yeah.
Yeah, it was GitHub. We're at GitHub.
Yeah, when we were GitHub.
Actually, Ward.
Ward was on, Ward
Right.
was on the stage,
Right.
that's right.
Top. And I've always been a big proponent of, less dependency the better, for the same reasons that these guys brought up.
Mm-hmm.
So Angular, when it first came out, was really, really attractive to me. Now, one of the big things, I just did another thing last week with someone, and one of the big things that came up is it appropriate for React? Of course. The way I look at it is if you're building what I kind of view as something that could work in the desktop world,
Yep.
line of business, a lot of shifts between views, things like that. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
If you're doing a lot of read-only stuff, it might be overkill. I mean, you might just let the
Sure.
server just serve up.
Is it the navigation abilities that you're really appreciating in Angular?
There's routing, there's history, there's validation,
Mhm.
there's just all this stuff. So the bottom line is I'm a big fan of it because you get all those things I mentioned, plus like 20 others.
Right.
Out of the box. And with the version 1.2, which is it's in release canon right now, it should be out fairly soon. They now are starting to make things more modular, like animation, for instance, is a feature of the framework.
Mhm.
It's now a module.
Yeah, and that's my concern now is when you start rattling off that big list, Angular was supposed to be quite lean, and it sounds like it's getting big.
Well, I mean, it's a fairly good sized framework for
Mhm.
JavaScript, but you got to keep in mind now you don't have to have. I mean, you mentioned what you said, up to 5 scripts maybe.
Yeah.
I literally think with Angular you can get away, and I'm talking core scripts, not your custom scripts,
Right.
but core, that 5 or less scripts is definitely doable. At a minimum I'll have 2, and that's going to be Angular and Angular Route, which is the new routing module that they introduced in 1.2. But what it buys you if you're building spas, and again, that's a big if, because I don't think it's appropriate for every app.
No.
If it is, I think down the road your maintenance story is going to be a lot better if that's the route you're going.
If you don't mind if I interject briefly,
Go right ahead.
to the point of Angular, so most application frameworks start out very lean and light, and people adopt them because of their lightweightedness and how easy it is to get
Sure.
started. And then eventually, because most application frameworks are written to be monolithic and to kind of control and own all of your application code, make it subservient to the framework, they'll grow and they'll get bigger, and then they'll eventually be mature and old guard. It's hilarious seeing my friends in Ruby on Rails go through the same spasms that the Java enterprise community was going through 5, 6 years ago.
And everybody does.
And Angular, I think in particular, has a couple of advantages that put it above and beyond the typical application framework. First and foremost is that it leans on dependency injection as its primary mechanism by which the things that you write become available to the other things that you write. So instead of me extending some superclass that has hundreds and hundreds of methods on it, I can inject small and focused things, which gets to the second point is it gives you lots of different primitives that don't fall under traditional model view controller buckets.
Right.
You have primitives like services and factories that are more nuanced in their meaning, directives which are focused pretty much strictly on just DOM interactions and isolating that from the rest of the application. So they did a good job thinking out how do we build you small pieces to work with, and how do we let you inject that into your code in a way that doesn't create these big, gigantic spaghetti monsters.
Cool.
And how's the mobile story with Angular these days?
I think it really depends on what the problem there is. So, for instance, on touch, there's now a newer module for touch.
Yeah.
But size-wise, I think it depends on how big a size you're looking for.
Right. Yeah. I mean, are you building mobile spa apps?
We're not. You doing that?
Absolutely. Typically, we do responsive, so we do
Responsive.
mobile first and then kind of build up. And if you do it that way, it's generally not a problem. The download time isn't so bad. I mean, if a user hits thenextweb.com, they're looking at a 4 megabyte payload once all the ads load. So it's not the end of the world.
I mean, this is one of the upsides to SPA is you load the libraries once.
It's cacheable.
Because you're staying on the page, and you're staying on the page anyway.
Right.
There is only one page. There's a lot less load. That consequence of load time is lower.
When a lot of people think of mobile web apps, however, they think of like widget libraries. Like I want to do a date picker here, and I want to do this thing here. And of course, Angular doesn't hand that to you out of the box like something like JQ Touch might.
Right. Phil, I got to get your tribe in before we go. Make
So
fun
I
of
have
spas.
I have 2 tribes.
Nice.
So if I'm doing Windows 8 development, I'm using WinJS.
Right.
Right, and I'm doing all native. I know a lot of people are trying to use some of the other frameworks in WinJS, but it's really just to your advantage to use WinJS if you're building a Windows 8 HTML
So,
app.
I mean, taking something like Angular to WinJS is a problem.
Well, it's not a problem. You can do it, but then you're really building a hybrid, and you're
Right,
not
sure.
building a native app, and then you lose the ability, or you have to work really hard to get back the ability to access to hardware, the camera, the accelerometer, those types of
Right.
things.
So you end up fighting these frameworks.
You end up
anyway.
fighting the frameworks for the value that they bring, and they do bring value. It's just it's not good enough to forego the ease of using the native WinJS.
Absolutely.
My other tribe for mobile, so I live in an MVC and a web forms world as well. Yeah, I'm a Microsoft guy, and it's Kendo. I mean, the beauty about Kendo. Am I allowed to say that?
You're allowed to say that. We are.
Okay.
Let us make no bones about it. Teleric's a big sponsor of .NET Rocks, and
And
Kendo's a heck of a good tool.
Yeah.
Product. Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are kind of at a Telerik conference.
and I'm wearing a Teller shirt. Well, there is a free version of Kendo as well, Kendo UI.
Yes, that's
Um,
absolutely
But
true.
But when
the
you-
thing here is you use it.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to go through the chicken soup of which framework works with other framework. I don't spend all my, well, in Windows 8 I do spend all my time in JavaScript, but when I'm developing in the web, I write a lot of C# code in Razor. And I want the JavaScript stuff to just work,
Right.
right? And I don't want to spend fighting time with jQuery UI or Angular.UI if they have one, and jQuery mobile and all these other things. I want a framework, and it's just a JavaScript framework, right, that I can plug in and it'll just work.
Yeah. All right.
It's definitely another approach to it.
Hey, Richard, you know what time it is?
It must be that happy time again.
It's time to pour a cup of JavaScript, sit down, and grunt.
Always a
That
joke.
co- The
It's always
humor
a
does
joke. There
not
you
go
go.
over well in Bulgaria.
There you
apparently.
go.
All right.
I didn't think they saw it coming.
No, well, you know what? Really, it is time to give away a DevCraft Complete Collection from Telerik to one lucky member of the
Speaking of
.NET
Telerik.
Rocks fan club.
Absolutely.
But before we do that, let's just formally talk about Kendo UI. It's everything that you need to build HTML5 and JavaScript sites and mobile apps. In the complete integrated package, you'll find a jQuery-based tool set that includes rich UI widgets and powerful data source dynamic data visualizations and blazing fast micro templates, all backed by industry-leading professional support. Visit the official Kendo UI website at kendoui.com/dotnet to find out more about Kendo UI and download the free 30-day trial with support. And don't forget to thank Telerik for supporting .NET Rocks.
Wow, that was unbelievably coincidental.
Yeah.
He had no idea you were
had
going to
no
run that
idea.
ad then. That's
No.
hilarious.
No.
So who's our winner, buddy?
Today's winner is John K. Lee. Give him a round of applause.
Round of applause for John. Congratulations, John. And a DevCraft Complete includes Kendo UI.
It certainly does.
Absolutely.
And we're also giving away one of my CDs. Been a while.
Yeah, you had a few here, too.
Yeah, been a while since we gave one of those away.
Nice.
Ha ha. And today's winner is Chris Krause.
Congratulations, Chris.
You can find that CD at carlfranklin.com.
All right.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, we have a fan club. And each show, we give away a Telerik DevCraft Complete Collection. If you don't know, go to .netrocks.com, click on the big Get Free Stuff button, join the fan club. We have thousands of members. Every December, we give away $5,000 worth of technology to one lucky member. It could be you, but you got to be a member to get it. And we'd like to ask our panelists, if you had $5,000 right now to spend on technology, what would you buy?
Phil.
I would buy 3 Surface Pro 2s, one for each of my kids, just to keep them away from mine.
That's about right, yeah. That'd be about $4,000 or so. Pretty close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you, Dan?
Yeah.
Music gears count?
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I probably get Ableton Live 9, but I don't have
Okay.
the newest version, and Logic Pro X.
Nice.
Which is not going to add up to 5,000, so I still got most of them.
How about one of those Onkyo super surround, receivers?
The Ableton Live, I don't know what the package is called, but it's got
No.
the package. So
Yeah.
that's probably what I get.
Because that works on a radio show.
Yeah. More gestures on the radio show.
Oh, whatever.
So audio gear. Justin, you got
Music
$5,000.
stuff.
What are you going to buy?
Oh man, this is a crisis. I'm a very minimalist person. My development machine is an 11-inch MacBook Air.
Right.
I like to travel really light, but if you forced me to spend $5,000, I'd probably saddle up with a maxed out 15-inch MacBook Retina
fully
Pro
loaded Mac Pro will get you to $5,000
with Retina.
with the Retina screen.
Yeah.
And SSDs.
There, I'm imagining that'll come out to about $3,000. I wouldn't totally top it off so that I could afford 2 Thunderbolt displays to go with it.
Of course.
I happen to have a wide desk that's
Yeah.
mostly empty, so I'd settle for that and probably lament about how much it all weighed.
Yeah, it'd be a bit heftier. I think if I wanted a really minimalist lifestyle, I think you go with the 3D printer. You just make what you need as you need it.
Getting there.
There you go. All right. Yep. Let's jump back into this because I think we're just sort of getting to the fun stuff, and it's remarkable how much you guys are actually agreeing, even though you clearly develop in a lot of different ways. And I'm just battling the single-page application thing. I mean, we've done a bunch of shows on it. I think, Dan, you've talked about it before. For me, from a performance perspective, I'm just suspicious of browser windows that hang around for more than a few minutes. Right? I hate memory leaks, and I see long-running browser sessions, when you just don't get around to closing that browser a couple of days, and you need to look, and it's got megs and megs and megs of memory, especially thinking in the context of mobile. I just don't know if they're survivable yet.
I don't think it's the technology's fault. I think that 90% of the world's developers treat front-end HTML, CSS, JavaScript as the second-class citizen. It's
Right.
the thing that they kind of have to do because the business wants to pay for a web application.
Right.
Most would prefer to be playing in their server side, and they understand that runtime incredibly well. They understand how their garbage collection on the server side works, for instance. Especially when I'm recruiting people to come, work with us at Test Double, your runtime is the browser when you're building a fat client app. So you better understand how browsers parse CSS and JavaScript and the AST memory structures with which they hold them, represent them, and how it all runs. And if you carry that, you'll hopefully approach your front end single page application development with the same level of rigor so that it never gets to that point.
Right.
Well, I think the biggest problem is SPA is the new hotness.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to put it on their resume. And the problem is, so now you have a hammer, everything has become a nail.
Yeah.
There are some great examples of SPA apps. Gmail is a great example. OWA was not a great example, right? Because you could just...
You do not leave OWA running for too long.
Yeah. Not only was it memory, you just watch your battery meter go down,
Yeah.
right? You have no idea what it was doing, but it was doing something.
It was chatting.
And everybody wants to say, oh, we're working on a SPA app. Why? Because all the cool kids are doing it, right? As opposed to going through the process to learn what it takes to do it right and to really sit back and say, does the business need this or does my resume need this?
Right. Yeah, I guess it's actually making a good case for what's a good SPA app.
Right.
And I'm still waffling on that.
As mentioned, I don't think anyone here does think that every app is a candidate for a SPA.
Right.
It's not.
Sure.
I think, though, that you're also seeing for instance, definitely Google Chrome. The Chrome developer tools, they
Yeah.
just announced a ton of enhancements. I mean, even down to HTML5 canvas optimizations.
Yeah.
That you can visually get into that and dig into what's going on. And IE11, as an
Been a long time
example,
coming.
which not everybody has, but it finally is catching up to that.
Yep.
They don't have all the performance tools that Chrome has yet, but I'm sure they're working hard on that. So, long story short, I think that the different browser companies are realizing that it does go down to everybody always optimize their frameworks, Java or Ruby on Rails or .NET or whatever it was. But the browser was like you said, I don't remember what you said, second-class citizen or whatever. It's just a way to, view HTML, CSS content. We just hope it works. So, right now, I think the story is still evolving, but it's getting a lot better. And I think that being able to see what you're actually doing is now much easier than it used to be.
So as far as browsers go, what's your current biggest pain in the butt browser version out there? Headache.
Well, depending on how far
I don't know.
Don't
we all
say IE6.
Yeah, we all know IE6, but
98 still, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of corporations that's still their standard.
yeah. But of the current browsers, maybe of the current couple versions ago, are there any that are not playing well?
Because I'm still finding sites that run well in Chrome don't run well in IE11.
Right.
Right. And it's got to be coding, right?
What? Safari?
To be honest, with a major
Now that
issues, but
75% of them are all using WebKit forks anyway.
Yeah, it's nice when you have a common engine.
Right.
But one of my concerns with HTML5 all along has been that the fragmentation would get worse, not better. And I'm not getting a clear picture either way. But
well, I think it is, you're right. I mean, just take audio video alone.
yeah,
Actually, if I had to pick a worst and it wasn't IE8, I would probably point at some of the, especially the older mobile browsers.
yeah.
So mobile Safari pre-iOS 6 had some very, very serious performance degradation. Obviously, when you say something is just WebKit, you assume that means that it's a common core and that it's mostly the same, but they vary dramatically in their implementation. And across all the different Android browsers as well, there's a lot of really, really goofy corner cases. Things like position fixed didn't work, in CSS until very, very recently.
Wow.
Well, and I think it's not just the browsers, right? Because a lot of the browsers, if they're not working right, just blink, there'll be a new version installing.
Nice.
But I think it's business's perception. I remember working on a really large project for a really large company, and they had some beautiful comps made up by the designers. I mean, they looked like magazine covers. They were gorgeous, right? And they had, here's the fold, right? They were still, this is only like 3.5 years ago.
Right.
Right, they're still thinking above the fold and below the fold.
Sure.
I'm like, it's not a frickin' newspaper, it's a web page, right? And so then they were complaining because we didn't have the fold line at the exact same pixel position across all browsers.
I thought you were going to say that you didn't actually render a horizontal rule with a dotted slash into the page.
That's what I went back to. I said, here, this will be the same on all browsers. It'll look crappy everywhere, but it'll be across all browsers.
Well, they do understand that the users get to change the window size, right?
Yes.
Has a little impact.
I don't think they understood that.
No.
And I think that's the biggest problem, right? So no matter, they're all going to render differently, right? As long as they work, I think, the businesses have to start understanding that, they're going to look a little different. And let's make them look good across all of them, but it doesn't have to be perfect across all.
And usable. I mean,
Right.
the responsive web design is one of those little sneaky, it's way harder than it looks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little tidbits to making that right. Something you said, Dan, really triggered me, which is understanding what's going on in the browser. I feel like we need to instrument clients, and I'm wondering how people are doing it. It was one thing when it was my smart client, and I could push it out, and I instrumented the heck out of that, and I had lots of feedback. How are you instrumenting your web apps at the browser level? Because I can instrument the server. What do you do with the browser?
I don't have a great one there, to be honest, for a client side.
Yeah.
Because really you're talking about a logging mechanism. I mean, console.log works great.
Yeah.
But not so much for maybe production or whatever.
I just,
So I don't have a library I use there for instrumentation.
So it just so happens that a pair of developers at our company has been in R&D mode for several months, building and spiking and exploring instrumentation style profiling tooling to be run in the browser.
Yeah.
And it's been really exciting stuff, and some of the insights that they've been able to show off internally I hope that it turns into a released open tool.
Yes, I know it'll be another library for us to install, but my personal feeling is, as a guy who's worked a lot on the infrastructure side and so forth, I do not like it when my customers know my app is broken before I know. Right? I want my apps reporting back to me. By the way, you're going to have a pissed off customer in a minute.
So I'm not an infrastructure person, but I've talked to lots and lots of developers who that's the thing that holds them back from taking an investment in developing, like, say, a single-page app, from taking that seriously, is that they live and breathe off of the data that they get from New Relic or whatever their back-end profiling tool is, and then they just imagine this gray line, the end of the solar system, and then all of the stuff in the client side is just a black hole.
It just goes off into the cloud.
Yeah. Right.
You never see it again.
So,
And if you live on that data and then you just don't get any of that feedback, if that's the feedback that drives your productivity and it just goes away, they can't imagine investing that kind of time.
Yeah, I think it's hugely important.
Real quick before left field go here. I do, as far as instrumentation, I don't have anything great to recommend. But as far as logging goes, that's pretty easy to do just with whether it's an Ajax call or whatever.
Yep.
So I think that's pretty common. Hopefully everybody builds some type of logging in Ajax.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. For a long time, and strangely, we would just use a web bug, which is, it's just a post back with an Ajax call that if we had HTML5, grab the web timing stuff and haul it up to us, just so we knew what you were spending your time on. And it's not hugely complicated.
Does preemptive have anything for
Yeah,
that?
preemptive does.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's one of those tools that if you run Visual Studio, you already own preemptive. I just most people don't know about
Runtime
it.
intelligence, I think
Yeah.
it's called.
The runtime intelligence tool.
Yeah.
And they have a JavaScript library you can add in. But there's a few of them, and New Relic's certainly one of them. Phil, what do you use?
So on the Windows 8 side, it's completely different, right? There's nothing out there. Equitech is getting close to the point of where we can actually integrate that with the Windows 8 HTML side.
Right, so you're talking WinJS?
WinJS,
Yeah.
right? On the XAML side, it's a whole different story. I actually haven't done any analytics on production websites because I don't write them anymore.
Right.
Right. It's been 3 years, and at that point, if a customer wasn't calling, they were happy. Right. But on the WinJS side, I think it's even more important, not only from our app perspective, but there's so few Windows 8 users out there. We don't want to lose either one of the two of them.
We need both those guys.
Yeah, we need both those guys so we can be successful.
One of the, speaking of that, it was on the XAML side, but Facebook bought it now, so I don't know what happened there. Parse is one I use for my logging.
Facebook bought Parse?
That's what I heard.
Oh, wow.
You heard it here first.
There you go.
Breaking news.
If I'm wrong, correct, I might be wrong. I believe they.
Justin's looking at his phone, wondering if he
Yeah,
should make
I
a
He's like,
phone
oh, wait a
call.
minute.
That's
Did
troubling.
my stock double or what?
So anyway, you got to imagine somebody's going to come out with something that's not just for logging, though, that'll do your instrumentation.
Yeah, I mean, what do we want when errors occur on the browser to get them back to us so we know about them. And yeah, as automatic as possible, right? Like that, in my mind, we're talking about JavaScript being a grown-up language that builds real apps that real people have to use every day. And this is part of the deal.
Yes, but it's a grown-up language with a bad temper.
And a bit of a legacy that it's trying to shake. Like
Yeah.
any language that's actually been around for a while. There are definitely worse problems.
So what's next for you? We'll start. What are you working on?
What am I working on? So like I mentioned at the beginning, Lyman.js has been my primary open source focus. I also spend a lot of time, I use Jasmine for my JavaScript unit tests, and I've been pushing that for years now, and tons of like little one-off, very focused helper libraries that I maintain. And only recently have I actually started using it to test Node code, so JavaScript that's running under Node.js. And so the last month or two has been me kind of, porting all of my stack of JavaScript testing tools to run under Node, especially running asynchronously because Node standard live is all asynchronous. So that's what I've been working on with most of my spare time.
Cool. Hey Dan, what are you working on?
So we've been, Justin mentioned earlier that Angular demand has gone way up. We've seen that as well, and we do a lot of training in mostly in the .NET world in the past, but lately it's been a lot in the JavaScript world. So we've actually spent a lot of time building some prototype apps that are, well, we hope best practice. That
Oh, good.
are released. I mean, you can get them on GitHub.
Great.
That are Angular based, that are simple enough that your average person starting out can figure it out.
How do we find them?
What's that?
How do we find them?
You go to github.com/Dan Wahlin, actually, which we're going
What's?
to blog.
Give me the name of one of the apps.
It's called Customer Manager.
Okay.
So that's one.
Grunt was already taken.
What's that?
Grunt was already taken.
Grunt was taken. That was boring, I considered the red-spotted owl. But
Yeah.
that was right.
Okay.
So we do a lot of mentoring as well, and been spending a lot of time there, and it kind of the purpose of close that stuff. On the work.
Awesome. Great. Phil, what's in your inbox?
So I way too much. We're crazy busy at Telerik. We've got a whole host of new WinJS controls coming out from Windows 8. I'm working on a book right now, and I've got 3 or 4 shows coming up. So it's just been a very, very crazy busy schedule.
Awesome.
Well, buddy, I think that's a. Oh, you want to take questions? Yeah,
Is there any questions from the audience before we wrap this up? There's one right there.
Hang on. I'll come to you. Hope it doesn't feed back.
We'll find out in a sec.
We have a question from the audience.
Hi. So just before the advent of mobile platforms, mobile phones, there was this trend to go from plain JavaScript to GWT and other languages, but once the need to be smaller and faster, we went back to JavaScript. Once the phones get really strong and more powerful, I mean, right now they're 68-bit. Do you think that we will go back again to GWT or other technologies?
No, I think we'll just use bigger JavaScript libraries because we can fit more of them on the phone.
I mean, Gmail was written in GWT, not in plain JavaScript.
No, I think that's a fantastic question. We could probably debate on why GWT didn't work out. I think it might have been the wrong layer of abstraction, and it was driven by a lot of fear that you didn't want to write JavaScript. I mean, it's why Google's pushing Dart now, you know? But I have a feeling like at least several people involved in GWT had something to do with the development of Angular. I'm not 100% sure that's accurate, but some of the good ideas, the few that I recognize in GWT did show up there. Where I see things going, as you talk about, as phones get super duper fast and as the browser becomes more and more a full-blown runtime, I'm interested in long-term looking at things like Asm.js for basically hitting restart on assembler inside the browser. Because once it's so fast, we'll start to see additional programming languages be built and target the browser. And once that happens, JavaScript will just be the bottom of the sediment in the fossil record of what's actually going on when these future browsers are running.
Well, it's JavaScript as assembly language.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is
Lying.
universal language.
Other thing to add to that real quick, I also think to tie in what Justin just said, Polymer is a Google project coming out that, in essence, you can extend very easily and add in your own web components. It's like writing your own version of the HTML spec, but not having any control of the HTML spec, then it'll still work. Right now, it's not polyfills because browsers just don't support all the DOM observation, shadow DOM, or whatever it is. But I think, I don't know, 'cause I don't know that team very well at all, but my guess is they're broadly spearheading that for the reason you just mentioned, that mobile's going to catch up to where desktop is now, and we need a little more robust way to build these apps. And then, yeah, you get into some of the stuff that Justin just mentioned, and now you really start to see some raw performance and you get flexibility.
All right, we have another question.
Hi, first of all, Carl, Richard, it's great to be on the live show. So my question is, I've been from the function spaghetti code to the ravioli code, so it's been 12 years in the web, but one thing I have noticed is a lot of JavaScript frameworks come, libraries come, but there's no definitive guide as to, if I'm developing this kind of page, yeah, this is the framework or the tribe that you call about should be used. Everybody has their own, kind of favorites, but we don't still see people coming out and say, yeah, you're doing kind of a data entry screen, yeah, maybe these are the things you should use, or these are the kind of app you're doing, this should be the stack. Or there's nothing like that, but rather everybody is coming up with their own library or framework. So will we ever see the open source community, or whoever it is, coming up and saying, yes, this is what you can have?
So one thing that I spend a lot of my time on, and part of the reason that I'm at a primarily .NET conference right now is that I've observed that JavaScript is the whole world runs it, and nobody owns it, and there's no such thing as the JavaScript community. You can only look at certain tribes and pockets, and that all contributes to the fact that there's therefore no right way to do anything. No one's going to hand you, this is the canonical way to approach this, and once you get over that cultural difference, I think it's actually liberating. Because now I'm free to experiment, innovate, run lean, and only use what I need as opposed to feel burdened by the expectations of others.
I think it's a basic measure of any successful language is you have to be able to shoot your foot off, right? Because I think back over the years, there were much more constrained languages, and they failed. Because it's that freedom in the language that can be very destructive and very messy that also lets you...
But also time to value.
Well, and I think you can do plenty of things wrong in C# as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that JavaScript's going to come out and say, this is the one way, right? May the force be with you. This is how you should do it. I think the community speaks, and the community speaks loudly. I mean, if you look at some of the frameworks that came out early, look at Scriptaculous and Prototype, right? It used to be all you hear about, for a brief period of time, and then jQuery came out, and it's like, script what? So the community will decide. Well, that means you have to be in touch with the community, right? How do you do that?
Just keep listening to .NET Rocks, you'll be fine. All right, so I want to get one more question in before we wrap it up.
Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for this format and the opportunity to ask you questions. I'm a JavaScript developer, primarily a JavaScript developer. I've developed in Node.js in backend, but primarily I use front-end MVC frameworks, and I have my own tribe, as you put it. My question is, how do you guys tackle, when building a Spa, how do you guys tackle the SEO?
Pass.
SEO, love it.
That one is a hassle. So, fortunately for us, we haven't had to yet, but there are, first off, there's a couple services I just heard about recently. There's several. Phantom.js potentially would be an option, and you can just automate that with Node, and it sounds like you've already heard of that option. I think that coming up with whether it's a grunt task or whatever that'll go through and basically spec it out is nice. I don't know. I hope it's going to get better, but right now, yeah, the story kind of stinks.
To describe what Dan's referring to by Phantom.js, I recently did some research into this for a client, and as hokey as it sounds, as far as I can tell, the quote-unquote best practice approach to this is I have a fat client JavaScript application, so whenever I see a Google or a Bing bot user agent come in, I'm going to refer them to some Phantom.js browser that's living persistently in an AWS server somewhere, and that'll render all the JavaScript and then present them with a pre-rendered HTML page and just tell them, okay, now I'm done.
Yeah. Index this.
Yes, and return the HTML as just a raw stream, which is tremendously hokey, but if you don't have a ton of pages, if you're not getting millions of crawling hits a day, it can actually be pretty
Also
affordable.
stunningly deceptive, because you can put whatever the heck you want in there. It's not going to be what's necessarily, what you present to the user, what you're telling the robot, don't have to be the same thing.
And as a result, Google's gotten a lot less strict about those things having to match up.
Right. The question is how, the thing is, if they can match it up, why do we need to do it?
Well, we're basically just paying their bill for them. They could have their robots run JavaScript just as well as we do. Phantom.js is built mostly on their technology.
Yeah.
And remember, the NSA has it all backed up anyway. So, hey guys, that's a show. One more round of applause for our panelists. Give it up. And we'll see you next time on .NET Rocks!